Hi, you guys. How you doing? It's Orlando City UK here today, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by another special guest and a familiar face. As seen on TV, you'll know him as Orlando City SC's broadcast announcer. It's Evan Weston. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Taylor. Happy to be here.
Pleasure, mate. I've really been looking forward to speaking with you. I appreciate your time today, as I know you're a very busy man, prepping for what's going to be that huge Orlando City versus LAFC game on Friday. As we all know, the Lions are going to be taking on LAFC in the quarterfinals at MLS's back. Huge stakes and a semi-final place up for grabs. So we're going to be previewing that game with Evan today. We're also going to be reflecting on how Orlando City's tournament has gone so far. And we're also going to ask Evan a few personal questions too about his own soccer journey, how his current role at Orlando
Not
City.
too personal.
Yeah, not too personal.
All right.
Awesome. So let's dive straight into it today. So we're going to start by looking ahead. We're going to preview the game that's almost upon us on Friday, LAFC. It's the fixture that no Orlando fan really wanted, but should we all be looking at this a little differently?
I do think so. I would almost throw your question back at you and say this is a fixture that you should want because this is the marquee game, right? I mean, this is when you play LAFC. LAFC are the story, and Matt Doyle said this today in his columns. We're recording this on Wednesday. That LAFC are in every story because they make themselves the story because they are so good. But I don't think Orlando City fans should look at this and say, "Oh, we have no chance. That they're too good." They're not Barcelona. They're very good, but they're not Barcelona. This is not some bottom tier relegation fighting La Liga team going to the Camp Nou. That's not what this is.
Yeah.
They have flaws. They are vulnerable. They have dropped points twice in this tournament. So it is. And with the way Orlando City has played and the soccer that they've put together in the last four games, and we'll get into this more, I think I'm not saying Orlando City should be favored. They're clearly the underdogs.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's such a massive I'll tell you this, I expect Orlando to put a better performance together than Seattle did last game. No matter what the result, I would expect Orlando City to perform as they have been performing throughout this tournament. That may not be enough to win. That is going to have to be determined on Friday night. But I think we now have enough of a sample to say we know how Orlando City is going to play.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you've touched on it there, but I've been so encouraged with the team's performances so far this tournament. And my take on this is kind of that, LAFC, we could avoid them for another round, but if we manage to get a result on these guys, just how much belief does that give the team going
right,
forward?
Exactly. You're going to have to play them anyway eventually. If they are truly the best team, then they should win the whole thing. And if they're not, then someone's going to knock them off. Why not Orlando?
Absolutely. So this is the game. We're really looking forward to it here at Orlando City UK. We've watched the LAFC games and there were a few mistakes. There was a bit of gloss on that scoreline against Seattle the other night. So like we've seen from Orlando, maybe they can make this tight. It's going to be key. But my second question is, we've seen LAFC in this tournament. We know they're heavily reliant on outscoring their opponents to win. Like you said, they've dropped points twice in this tournament. The defence is often leaky. Bob Bradley also rotated Vermeer in goal for Cisniega in the group stage. How do you think Oscar Pereira's side can exploit LAFC's weaknesses? It's easier said than done, of course.
Yes, of course. But I think the key with LAFC, and Oscar has said this, is their intensity and their pressure, right? If you can break the first line of their press, especially if you can break past Atuesta, you're going to have an opportunity to create a mismatch and an overload going the other way. Yeah. Transition defense is their biggest weakness. So we've seen Orlando City play well through pressure, particularly against Philadelphia, which is one of the other best pressing teams in the tournament. But New York City as well really tried to press Orlando City, and there was no fear. They were completely calm on the ball, and that's confidence, right? Uri Rosell has been massive with that, being able to just turn and make that pass with someone on his back. Goes down to the center backs. I mean, Oscar shouted this out today in his press conference, the leadership of Robin Janssen on a back line where they all speak different languages, but it doesn't matter because they all understand the same principles that they've been instructed to execute, and Robin is responsible for making that happen, and he does. So it's a confidence thing, and I think that if they can calmly play their patterns and stay the course with what they've been doing, because it'll work. What Oscar has taught will work against anybody if you execute it. If they can break that first line of press, and to me, Atuesta is the key player. I'm not the only person to say this, but he is a heck of a football player.
Oh, he's a superb.
He is. Everyone talks about the number Rossi's going to fetch. I'm not sure Atuesta won't do even better.
Yeah.
He's a heck of a footballer. If you can break through him on that churning midfield, and Blessing too. I mean, they're good, but there are going to be opportunities, and I think Orlando City will create chances. The thing is, how many are you going to need to score to beat them? I think is the question. That number has been at least 3 so far. Can Orlando manage that? We'll have to see. But yes, there absolutely are vulnerabilities here. Like I said, it's not Barcelona. This is not Guardiola's Manchester City. This is not Klopp's Liverpool. You can beat them.
Exactly. Like you say, they're not infallible. Orlando have made chances consistently in this tournament. We're going to have to take them. We all know that. But moving on, like we know about the attacking weapons LAFC possess. Diego Rossi in particularly leads the Golden Boot race at the moment with 7 goals in the tournament. He's really stepped up where obviously Carlos Vela's in Carlos Vela's absence. Thinking of matchups and how this game's going to play out on paper. Obviously, sometimes we watch the game and it doesn't play out that way. But looking at where the players are going to be positioned on the field. Now, obviously, we all know about Juan at Orlando City and the fact he absolutely loves to raid forward down that right wing and support the attack. But speaking about Juan in particularly, with Diego Rossi flanking up that left wing, how disciplined is Juan going to need to be in this game?
I'll tell you what, I was really impressed with him against Montreal because they have, not exactly the same player, but they have a very pacey physical winger in Romel Kyoto that played on that side. And Juan with Antonio Carlos, and it's going to have to be both of them, basically shut him down. He had that one chance, but that was in the box off a different. It wasn't on the break or anything because Montreal came out and tried to hit Orlando on the break and just got nothing. I mean, they didn't get a sniff. And when you watch Orlando's build-up, Miguel Gallardo, my partner, has done a great job of breaking this down. When Orlando City get forward and they play those passing sequences that are so much fun to watch, one of the fullbacks is always back, and Rosell is always shading in front of them. There's always 4 behind the ball no matter what. So there is cover. That's been a huge problem for Orlando City in the past, particularly 2 years ago, but even last year. Transition defense, right? Yeah. And I think this is, I don't think you're going to see Rossi get the sort of chances that fell to him against Seattle and even convert them all. But I will say about Rossi is he gets overshadowed by Vela, but he was still within, I believe, the top 5 or 6 goal scorers in all of MLS last season, with Vela taking all the penalty kicks. Yeah. Now Rossi's also taking the penalty kicks. So when you add that to his total, and a few of them have been pens, this is a guy who, if he's the best player on your team, is going to score 20 to 25 goals in a season. So, this is an elite top player for this league and still so young. Excited to see where he ends up in Europe. I don't know how COVID will impact the transfer market and all that. I don't think anyone says they do know is lying. But yeah, he's a special talent, and he might be able to make a moment of magic. Orlando City almost got 3 points against LAFC last season, and he was able to conjure something up at the end of the game to steal a draw. So sometimes you just have to tip your cap. That happened with Jesus Medina against New York City FC, but Orlando scored enough to overcome that. So we will see.
Yeah, you've alluded to it there, Evan. The last time that Orlando faced LAFC. Now, if you cast your minds back, obviously, Bob Bradley's side came down to Exploria Stadium. They missed several of their stars through international call-ups, but the squad, battled to a hard-fought 2-2 draw. Now, just take a moment. I want to touch on this quickly. I absolutely loved your commentary from that night. It was here's Nanny with a chip. It's 1-1. I absolutely loved that. Now,
that was one of my favorites from last season. That was a great goal.
Favorite looking back.
I think you probably notice I just get such a joy from watching Luis Nani play. In my opinion, he is now with Zlatan back overseas and Wayne Rooney as well. I believe Nani is the single most accomplished player in Major League Soccer today. I think he's the most technically gifted player in Major League Soccer today. And I'm thrilled that Mauricio Pereira is getting so much attention for his run in this tournament. We'll talk about him, I'm sure. I think he's a brilliant player. But let's all just have Nani appreciation, because the flicks he had in the previous game were just mad genius.
Yeah.
And the guy is a consummate professional and captain as well. So we're very, very lucky to have him.
I think that's exactly echo that, thinking of Orlando City captains in MLS, there's not been too many, but thinking of Kaká and thinking of Nani, there's some.
Yeah, we haven't done too bad, right?
We haven't done so bad so far,
yeah.
That's absolutely for sure. I think leading into this tournament, there was that picture of him on the rock. I think he had an 8-pack, let alone a 6-pack. So
I think it was 10. I spotted a 9th and 10th ab.
We knew he was ready for this one. And like I said, it's a pleasure to have him on the team. Now, that's LAFC covered. We all know what to expect, really. I want to kind of reflect on the games that Orlando City have played before so far. Obviously, I've been very encouraged. The team's performed very, very well, getting out of the group stage as winners. Now, you've obviously enjoyed the role of being the broadcast announcer at Orlando City for a few years. Sum up the biggest difference, and you touched on it, but sum up the biggest difference between watching Oscar Pereira's Orlando City and Lions teams you've analysed in previous seasons.
Yeah, it's consistent identity. That's the answer. Is when in past years, you would come into the match day, and I would have inside information plenty of times, and I would go into the match day not being sure what we were going to look like. Down to even the formation, much less our tactics. With Oscar, you know exactly what you're going to get. They're going to play a 4-2-3-1. And I don't have any inside information now because they're all in the bubble. I've had no contact with anybody. I don't get to go to training. We don't get to talk to Oscar. But he's made it easy on us because they're going to play a 4-2-3-1. They're going to be balanced. They're going to possess the ball. They're going to play freewheeling, beautiful possession soccer. They're going to play through Pereira and Nani, and they're going to create a bunch of chances and throw people into the box. And that's what they're going to do. And you have to try to stop them. And defensively, they're going to press. They're going to take the ball away from you. And it's been beautiful. It's been so great to see a City team be able to come out and replicate the same standard of performance, playing with the same style against a multitude of different opponents, night in and night out, week in and week out, to be able to play the same way with mostly the same players. They've had a couple of injuries, but you lose Dom Dwyer, unfortunately, and Tesho Akindele is there to step up. He scored twice in this tournament. Junior Urso, who was, just flat out dominant the first 15 minutes against Philadelphia.
Amazing.
That injury could have derailed that game. That was, and for 10 minutes or so, it looked like Philadelphia was going to take control. And then Sebas Mendes finds the game and is able to step in there. This is a full Ecuadorian national team starter.
Didn't weaken the 11
third choice in central midfield and would start for most teams in the league because Uri Rosell has had a career restoration last month. You would have been forgiven for writing him off, and he's been fantastic. And I know knowing Uri and what he's gone through the last 2 years, it's been so great for him. So you look at the squad depth and the personality that they have. I will say this though, real quick, because I want to give the previous coaching staff some credit, and I really want to give Luis Muzi some credit. A lot of the stuff that we're seeing play out this year was improved upon last year from 2018. 2018, we all know what happened. Last year, no, they were not a playoff caliber side, and there were too many points shipped at the end of games and things like that. But they did play really well defensively for large chunks of last season. You saw that expression, Nani's influence obviously being felt. A lot of the guys who are huge pieces of this team were brought in last season. Janssen, Mendes, Nani, of course, Tesho, Juan, Moutinho. So there's lots of pieces that were added in 19 that laid the building blocks for now what Oscar has been able to do and assemble it into something great.
Definitely. You make a great point because I've seen, obviously Orlando City, I know Orlando City. Just going on Twitter throughout this tournament, I've seen a lot of accounts kind of tweeting with the notion that who is this team and what have they done with Orlando City? And you make a very good point because we signed Junior Urso, we signed Antonio Carlos, and we signed Pedro Gallese as our main signings this offseason. But the majority of the guys are already there. And we're kind of building on the blocks that were put in place before from James O'Connor. Like I said, the team did defend a hell of a lot better last season.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of seeing it come together, which is fantastic to see. I think I know who you might say for this next question, because we both touched on it. But if you had to pick one, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who has been your standout player for Orlando City so far? Is it Uri, or is there someone else?
Well, it's actually hard because there's a few guys I'd like to highlight. I actually say Pereira because when the first time I saw him train last summer, and you've seen it in games now, so you know, his quality on the ball is evident. And he's drawn comparisons now to Nico Lodero, his countryman, to Maxi Morales. I do believe he is at that level of a playmaker. Carlos Gil, I think he's that good. Yeah. And he also does so much work off the ball. He led the team in ball recoveries in the group stage as a number 10. And last year, I was going to say, before we move to this question, I think Pereira almost counts as a 2020 signing, because last year when he came, he was coming off holiday, hadn't played a game since May, and he was an Iron Man for Krasnodar. I mean, he played over 200 matches across 6 years. I mean, the man has put some miles on the tires and clearly was not completely fit and full strength. Mm-hmm. I think you're seeing that now that he's gotten a break. You're seeing it from Nani too. But Pereira, to me, has been the key to all of this. Now, Rosell is absolutely a guy I would highlight. Yeah. Nani is a guy I would highlight. Chris Mueller, of course, has gotten a ton of attention, and deservedly so. He looks like a new player. Joao Moutinho as a playmaker has been tremendous. Orlando has run a lot through him as sort of a deep-lying playmaker on that left side. And then Juana. I mean, it's been a team effort, right? There really has not been a weak link in the side. Galese, when called upon against New York City, saved that result by himself before Orlando were able to put the game away late. So, yeah, it's been a team effort. But for me, if for most teams, it's going to be your number 10. That is, if everything is functioning properly, that's the guy that's going to connect everything. Mm-hmm. And I think Pereira has shown the quality to be able to do that.
Definitely. I think that's a fair assessment. There has been so many good performances, and that's what's been so encouraging in this tournament. All of the team have stepped up. But speaking of Mauricio, who you've liked in this tournament, I cast my mind back to that very first game, the inaugural Florida derby against Inter Miami. Pereira won a ball so high up the pitch pressing, and he played Chris Mueller, who didn't score that one, and he's still waiting for his first goal of the tournament. But that's when Pereira stuck out to me, the job he does in the team, and he created that chance, and I was like, if we can keep doing this, and luckily enough we have, in the tournament moving forward. So I can't disagree with that. I think Mauricio's been excellent, and I think the rest of MLS now is waking up to, oh, Orlando, I've got this guy,
It's nice to see that, isn't it? Because to be fair, when you're not achieving results, it's easy for someone who has to follow 26 and expanding teams all at once to say, okay, I missed this signing. But you've seen that, I will say Pereira, had Orlando had to pay a transfer fee, probably would have attracted a lot more attention, because that's a $10 million player. I mean, that's the value on that player. He was out of contract, and it was a great piece of business by Luis Muzzi to get him on a free transfer. It was really a highway robbery. Yeah. But I don't know this for sure, but I know that the Krasnodar fans voted him their greatest ever player and are just utterly in love with him. And I wonder if they just couldn't sell him because they would have faced anger from the fans. But he was ready for a new adventure, and he's clearly up for it. So it's been a joy to see him succeed so much.
It was great to see him get that first goal with the header, and he's obviously got the great man Kakar's number 10 now as well. So whether there's been something from these, watchers on from who support other teams and follow MLS, whether there was something in the 33 to 10 and now they're taking notice, but what a fantastic player. Now, that's Orlando City, and we hope the guys, continue on in this vein in the tournament. If they don't, there's still so many positives to take.
I agree. I'll say that. I think no matter what happens on Friday night, you're in a good spot, right? You should feel great about where this team is. I know it's been a rough time, and if anybody says, even if Orlando City don't get the result against LAFC, I mean, you guys have earned being happy and celebrating and enjoying a good football team, because that's what Orlando City have on their hands right now. I think it's evident that it's not really about results when you're evaluating that sort of thing at this stage. I think it's about the consistent performances, and I would be very surprised if Orlando do not have that on Friday night, because again, result aside, that's been the constant.
Definitely. And almost with the way this year's panned out with COVID-19, like I said, the situation forced the team to be in each other's pockets more. Obviously, they're in the bubble, all the teams are, but it just gave Oscar Pereira and the team more time to spend with each other. And I think that can't be underestimated.
Orlando City, and I think it's evident that Orlando City took better advantage of it than most of the league, right?
Yeah.
I think Orlando City have looked fitter than their opponent in every match.
Yeah.
They are more tactically disciplined than their opponent in every match, except maybe Philadelphia. That's a really good team that the Union have, and they're still alive in this tournament for a reason. But yes, I think they took great advantage of. I know that Jose Mabazan, the tactical assistant, was drilling the guys on every team in the league on their tactics every day. Fabian Bassan, who I don't know if you watched the broadcast where Ali Moreno was talking about training under him. But I can verify that the guys are as fit as anybody in the league, because that man is brutal. But if I wouldn't last 3 minutes.
I wouldn't last 2.
But yeah, no, he's done an exceptional job with the guys. So yeah, there's a lot of good vibes to be had.
We spoke about that actually on an interview I did with a few other Orlando City blogs last week, and obviously Dom Dwyer with the muscle tightness and Junior Urso with the knock. Besides those guys picking up knocks in the tournament, the guys look so fit, honestly, and like. He obviously has had some of the younger lads like Jordan Bender and Joey Desart and Daryl DK making their debut in the last game. But everyone's been fit and raring to go. And having watched other teams in this tournament, it's not been the case.
I think Orlando did luck out not having to play the 9 a.m. game, which they were originally going to have to. But at the same time, I think they would have been up for it more than most of the other teams have been. They train early in the morning with Oscar. I'm sure they would have been up for it. So. Yeah, there are not many teams that are going to outwork them over the course of the year. Now, LAFC is extremely fit as well, particularly in their midfield. That K, Blessing, Atuesta is the key to that team. That is the engine room. It's the best engine room in the league. But I think Pereira, Rosell, Urso, Mendez, pretty good too.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, we've spoken about it a little there, but if you can give a straight answer what you feel on this, because this was the big talk heading into the tournament, and now we've obviously watched 4 City games unfold. Do you think there was an advantage of Orlando City all along being in their home market and getting acquainted in the bubble earlier than others? Obviously, them and San Jose Earthquakes were the first teams in.
I do think the getting in earlier probably helped. I don't think there's any sort of home field advantage, though. They're still away from their families. It doesn't matter how far away you are, if you're 20 minutes or if you're 8 hours. You're still not with your family. You're still communicating with your children, with your spouse the same way, with your family members. You're sleeping in the same beds. They are nice beds, though. I'll say I love that hotel. But yeah, I think it's the same thing. I think your point of getting in the bubble, and because they were able to move to small group training before most teams and to full training before most teams, I think that probably helped as well. But I don't think it's a major thing. I think you can safely give most of the credit to the job that Oscar Pereira has done and the job the boys have done to believe in him and to follow the plan and to execute it as well as they have.
Definitely. I think that's well said indeed. So that's Orlando City. We're all looking forward to the game, a massive game against LAFC on Friday. One of the biggest in our 6-year MLS history, of course. Now, Evan, I want to move on to you and a few personal questions.
All right.
Now, I want to know, obviously you've been a familiar face on the Orlando City broadcast for the last few seasons now. Tell us, how did you fall in love with soccer? Obviously, being a Brit, we know you Americans have so many sports. How did you fall in love with soccer, and what was your earliest memory of soccer?
You want to know? It's funny. I did not grow up a soccer fan.
Oh.
I did not. I played baseball as a kid. I loved baseball. I was a New York Mets fan. I loved football, American football. I was a Green Bay Packers fan. I still am. Yeah. I'm still tragically a New York Mets fan too. The Mets are a little bit like, I don't know, like your Villas or your Leeds or your West Hams, like that sort of just helpless club that has all these resources and doesn't, your Evertons even. So yeah, that's sort of where we're at with baseball. But so I went to school for broadcasting, and I just knew, I've known my whole life since I was a little kid that I just wanted to broadcast games. I didn't care what sport. I didn't care where, although preferably somewhere warm, so that worked out nicely. But yeah, I wanted to be a broadcaster. When I was in third grade, I would commentate my friends' pickup basketball games live in front of them. I was no athlete, never have been. My baseball career ended when I was 12. So when I left college, I worked in baseball, and it's a grind. In baseball, you play every day. You get about 5 off days in 5 months, and in minor league baseball in particular, because you don't start at the top, you got to work your way up. So I'm in like the 5th tier, right? And you get to the park at 9, and you leave the park at 11 p.m. or later when the game is over, and you've written the recap and you've taken care of everything, and then you get up and you do it again the next day. And I've always tried to keep kind of a perspective about my career and my home life and being able to have a life outside of my career, because in my industry it's very easy to just get sucked in and never do anything else, and that life just wasn't for me. I didn't find that I could commit to it. So the following year I was doing some games at a local college and was, I did college soccer. I knew the game, but I wasn't a passionate supporter or anything. And it turned out that Orlando City's radio broadcaster from 2016, Adam Schick, had taken the job with Atlanta United, but they had declined to hire until the season had begun. Right. So the club were scrambling to find a radio broadcaster for the weekend. And my now boss, I suppose, found me somehow and reached out to me. I was calling a softball game, and he says to me, have you ever thought about a career in soccer? And I wrote back to him, not as of yet, but I have now. Can you give me 45 minutes and I'll give you a call? And the next morning, he calls me back and he says, you're on the air at the weekend. And I said, Jesus, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know the team. I don't know the league. And that game got postponed because of ice and cold weather in Boston. We were supposed to play in New England. And I ended up debuting the following week against Philadelphia. And it was a trial basis to see how I did. And I did well enough that they offered me the rest of the season. And then things just went from there. And when I got the job, I realized, okay, this is my break. Every little young broadcaster waits for their break. Yeah. This is my break. I need to become a soccer nut. And I thought it would be hard. And by about 2 weeks in, I was obsessed. I was in 2017. I'll tell you this. I watched either the full or condensed version of every single match that was played in MLS in 2017 because I wanted to know everything. And I listened to podcasts. I read books. I absorbed as much as I could. I said, I have to pick a Premier League team. I said to my friends, who's the Mets of the Premier League? They said, it's Liverpool. They never win anything. It worked out pretty well. And I totally how could you not fall in love with Jurgen Klopp? And I completely and utterly fell over heels for them. And I'm thrilled now that when Liverpool are bad again, because it will happen, that I'll be able to say, okay, I can handle this. I had the good times. But yeah, it's just been it's been quite the ride, and the club have been amazing to me. I mean, for them to just take a shot on some kid, and I had no profile, nobody knew who I was, and for them to give me a shot, I will be eternally grateful for. And to connect with the fan base and the community, we have something very, very special. There are plenty of markets around the league where MLS is really struggling to grab a foothold. I mean, I mentioned New England. You look at, that's a really difficult market to play in when you've got the Red Sox and the Patriots and the Celtics and the Bruins, who are all dynastic institutions. And in Orlando, we've always sort of been neglected from a sports perspective. We're in the top 20 markets in the United States, and we only had an NBA team because, it's Mickey Mouse land. They don't care about sports. Well, real people live here, and real people love this team and love this club. And this last few weeks have been especially gratifying. I know it's been such a tough time for so many people. I've been blessed to be able to stay on with the club throughout this and be able to at least distract folks for a little while. But now that we have games back and the club is delivering some joy to people, it's been extraordinarily gratifying. So I can't say enough good things about it. And Here's hoping it continues.
We're praying here at Orlando City UK as well. But that's really interesting, Evan. I want to say personally, we love what you do for the club, and we're really glad you got your big break with Orlando City.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, we think you do a fantastic job with the guys, Miguel and Jenny, of course. Tell us, I mean, to us as viewers, when we tune into those broadcasts, we know it's the best job in the world. You know, you'll tell us that. But how much fun do you have putting those broadcasts together?
You know, it's funny. We're in a bit of a unique situation. A lot of clubs will hire broadcasters who are just broadcasters in the market. So one of my very favorite soccer broadcasters is a man named Steve Cangelosi. He does the Red Bulls on MSG, and he does some shots with ESPN as well. He did a couple games in the tournament. But Steve is a hockey man at heart. He does the New Jersey Devils, and the Red Bulls are sort of he loves the Red Bulls. I mean, he's clearly very passionate about it, but they're sort of his second gig. And there's a lot of broadcasters around the league that are like that. Jenny, Miguel, and I are full-time employees with the club. So that allows us to not only create a lot of other content for everybody and collect health insurance, which is not easy to do when you're freelance in the United States, our lovely country. But we don't have the NHS, I wish. But in order, to get to know each other and to develop a better rapport with each other, and I count both of them as good friends. And I think what I like about our rapport is that what you see on television and what you see on social media is sort of just us. I don't think any of us are putting on a face or trying to fake anything. Miguel is every bit as wacky and crazy and enthusiastic.
God, we know Miguel,
an Orlando City legend. I don't know that there's a man that has put more into Orlando City than that guy for 10 years now. Has been at the very heart and soul of this club. There is no Orlando City without him, to be frank. It just doesn't exist the way it does now. Because if they don't win in USL and they don't attract the support that they attract, the MLS is never looking at this market. So I think, they're looking at Miami. They're looking at Tampa. They're not looking here. So I think that he deserves, tons of credit, and he'll just be modest and say, but no, he's a spectacular guy, huge heart on him. And yes, he does punch me in the arm celebrating goals. The New England game at the end of last year when Nani scored what I thought was maybe the goal of the year in the league.
Oh, definitely.
And I mean, my voice cracked. I hate hearing the call. Although I did hear it in a Continental Tire commercial during the tournament. That was. He gets very excited, and Jenny is younger than I am. I'm 26. I'll be 27 in a couple weeks. Jenny is, I think, 24 or 25. So we're a young group. Have to be the youngest in the league, or at least close to it. But I think that helps too. That we're all, Miguel is the granddad, and he's like 35. So it's like we all have a lot of fun, and I think we're authentic. I think that's what we strive to be.
Definitely. I mean, speaking of like the rapport you guys have, certainly I can say that as a viewer, that comes across, on the.
Well, that's the most meaningful thing. There's nothing better than I can hear than that. So I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we're almost running out of time, but one last question I've got for you, Evan. Speaking of the broadcast, now I remember it. You'll remember it very well as well. But the Philadelphia Union away game last season, the rain delay. Surely that's the biggest challenge of working live TV, right? I think
that was the night. The hardest thing was standing the whole time. So we don't have chairs in there, it's just the cameras, and we have the set. It's a fairly small space. So even during the breaks, by the time we were into the second hour, when we would, and by the way, we were just the people on screen. The people that were really scrambling were the people in the truck and in the control room. Finding, okay, what can we run? What can we get through this? There's nothing like live TV. It is exhilarating. But it got to the point where we would go into a package or we would go into a commercial, and I would just have to sit down. And I'm standing there with Miguel and with Paul Shaw, who are professional athletes, and they're perfectly fine. And I'm sitting here like, oh, my feet, stretching my
Walking around Walt Disney World, right?
The thing that was so great about that was I got to do a weather forecast. In college, you would rotate positions in the newsroom, and when I got to be the meteorologist, I always just got such a kick out of it. And to be able to do that on television for tens of thousands of Orlando City fans was a huge treat. We didn't even end up playing that night. We played the next day.
Next day, yeah.
It was so we had to get up in the morning and put on your suit and your makeup and then do it all over again. But it was so much fun. Yeah, I missed that. I hope we're able to get back to that sooner than later. But for now, though, I'm thrilled to have this tournament. Miguel and I are doing the radio broadcast on Friday night. So if you want Orlando City commentary for the game, it'll be 96.9 The Game. You can find it on iHeartRadio if you're not in the market to listen to our call of the game. If you want to, turn the TV off. Although I wouldn't recommend that, actually. John and Stu, I think, are the best in the business. But you're spoiled for options if you're looking to watch the game on Friday night.
Fantastic. That's good to know. So that's almost our time up for today, unfortunately. I could have chatted Orlando City with Evan here for hours on end, but I want to say a big thank you to you for coming on. We appreciate that you're obviously busy this time with the game on Friday, but we appreciate everything you do for the club and wish you the best going forward. Now, it's been so much fun. Thank you. I appreciate having me on, and we'll have to make this a little bit more often, okay? Definitely. Would really enjoy that. Thank you, Evan. Now, as for Orlando City LAFC, so it all gets underway at just after midnight in the UK in the early hours of Saturday morning. If you're in the States, of course, it's just after 7:30 p.m. in the evening. And we wish our Lions the very best of luck. They've done an amazing...
Before we go, I do want to shout out, I think our UK fans are absolutely incredible. You guys have as much football as anybody in the world could possibly want to watch. And to have an attachment to a club that is, across the world, in Orlando, Florida, is such a treat to have an international community behind us. So thank you guys for your support. It's been fun, and we hope to keep delivering some joy to you.
We absolutely love it. I mean, me personally, I'm lucky at the moment. I'm moving back to the UK next year, but I'm in Toronto, so I'm watching it on your time zone. But honestly, our supporters in Orlando City, UK are diehards. They've all stayed up. They've watched every single game.
You absolutely have to be.
Yeah, there's some strong coffee at Orlando City, UK, that's for sure. But we're almost out of time, so I want to say thanks again to Evan. And I think the team have really restored some real pride in the purple jersey this season. So until next time, it's been Orlando City UK and Vamos Orlando. See you later.
Bye, guys.